Chantal, you're running for Near North School Board trustee?
That's right, yes, school board trustee. Near
How come?
North.
Like that's I don't think they actually do anything now, do they?
Oh, well, I think that's a good question. I think they do. I think they set a tone at the very least. They hire the director of education and they influence how he practices his job. So that's not to say that, there's many, many different influences on education, and the school board trustees might not be at the top. But if we have this role as the community to have a voice, I think it's important to take that seriously. Yeah, get involved.
Well, and if you were on the board, when situations like West Ferris kicking out Dreamcoat, I heard, a long-standing relationship they had there and nowhere to go, and a building that's sitting empty. Tell me what you're thinking about this, because this seems odd to me.
Yeah, well, I do have two kids. Well, my oldest just graduated from Chippewa, and I have another kid in Chippewa. So these are very real issues to me. Do we give our kids opportunities for things like theater? Mm-hmm. And also, do we have partnerships? Do schools and the school board have partnerships in the community with groups? I think it's really important for schools to have those partnerships with theater and arts communities for a number of reasons. I believe that Dreamcoat Theatre invested thousands of dollars through a grant in upgrades. So that benefits all kids, whether they are participating in that program or not. And I think if we want to take seriously what I think of as an epidemic in mental health issues for youth and children, we have to think about what are those avenues for building up self-esteem. Theater, the creative arts, has been demonstrated to be really beneficial for kids that might be struggling. So what better way than to have a partnership? The school doesn't have to do everything. But if the school doesn't support these community groups in a town the size of North Bay, it's very hard to make those things viable. So 17 years of Dreamcoat Theatre using that facility is a significant investment in building a program that benefits kids, a lot of kids. So I think it's an unfortunate choice to decide without, it seems a lot of consultation about options, alternatives. I'm not sure. There hasn't been a lot in the community that I know about. How do we support that transition? Maybe it is the case that now that we only have 2 high schools instead of 3 in this town, there's a space consideration that's serious. But if that's the case, there must be a way of a transition being a little less painful than just giving them a boot.
Yeah, well, when you're making changes without a plan, and it's a community partnership with just leaving people to you're causing stress and anxiety and a rush to fix things. I think it would be prudent and a responsibility of the board and the school to figure that out before they actually just drop the shoe, right?
Well, I think the school board has invested in this multi-year strategic plan. And it may be that as a result of that, they've done a little bit of a space audit. But I think a big pillar in that plan is supposed to be open and transparent communication. And I think they have actually invested in doing more communication. I've noticed as a parent, they're putting out more things on their website, they're sending more letters, but that is a one-way flow of information going out. That's not consultation. That's not listening. That's not making a channel so that partners like Dreamcoat Theatre or parents who want to see more theatre in schools have a voice in the process for making decisions. So I think they have work to do. If they want to develop this concept that their new multi-year strategic plan is an effective approach, they need to demonstrate that communication doesn't happen top-down, one way. It actually involves listening to the voices of parents and students, and they can demonstrate how they've done that.
I keep thinking of one recent graduate of West Ferris. He's done fairly well in the acting, Joe Drinkwalter. he's done really well, and he came out of that West Ferris and the theater that was there with Dreamcoat and everything. Yeah, it's a shame when they don't. That's not a bigger part of the puzzle as far as communications. Like, now, what zone are you running in? It's just North Bay zone?
North Bay,
Yeah?
yes.
Are there very many other candidates?
There's 5 candidates and 4 positions.
Oh, okay. So you got pretty good odds. What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm an educator, basically. I've actually worked at a number of different levels. So I noticed the school board is quite heavy with representatives or trustees that are retired teachers or who are working in teaching. I'm not a qualified teacher, but I have worked at universities as a professor and an instructor. I've worked at Canada College. I've also more recently worked in areas like STEM education with Science North and doing summer camps.
Oh, okay.
And I've worked with community members developing arts and, throughout the pandemic. I thought that was one of the things that kids really needed, is to have an outlet, to have some structure and programs. And so I was active in doing that. And in the past year, I worked with kids with challenging behaviors, ages 7 to 10, at a small independent school in North Bay. So that's what I'm really drawn to, actually, is kids that are struggling in school. When I look at my kids, we moved to North Bay because my son was struggling at school. And we really thought the Near North District School Board would have more to offer both of my kids. And I would say that that's true for us. My kids have done very well here compared to where we were. And my daughter finished the full international baccalaureate program because she loves homework.
I guess so.
And my son has always struggled. When we arrived, he was only attending school in grade 5 for an hour and a half a day. And now he's attending full-time. He's doing very well in his courses. He still has big struggles in school. But I've noticed that educators who make a huge difference for kids like my son in making things a little bit different, trying to make things work, adding supports like a communications disorder support person who works one-on-one with a student like my son. So I'm very happy that I can see this system trying its best. But I'm also very aware that you have to be a pretty squeaky wheel to get the kind of supports that I get. And it's not every family that gets what they need to support their student. So, I'd like to support the good stuff that's happening, and I'd like to encourage more because we need more. And I was really surprised to hear that the Ontario government had more than $1 billion surplus in the Ministry of Education budget last year. And I think there's so many ways that money could have been spent to help kids. But when I see the Near North District School Board turning away an organization like Dreamcoat, which can bring in funds as well as supporting kids who might be struggling with self-esteem or other mental health issues, I think, we can't afford to make decisions like that lightly. So there needs to be a very clear reasoning, and the public really deserves to know why would we lose out on partnerships. We need more of those community partnerships.
Well, how much of a factor was just storage of the Dreamcoat stuff? Because I remember when I was coaching baseball at West Ferris, we used to have practices down in the dungeon there, and space is at a premium, and there was a lot of theater stuff. It's just a matter of getting a storage facility? Like, is that...
Well, you see, we're left to ponder these questions, and we shouldn't be pondering these questions.
Right.
So I really hope, and I think, as I mentioned, I see a change in the communication strategy from the Near North District School Board. I hope they will do a better job in actually explaining to the people that care what's going on, because from my perspective, I don't know what's going on with Toros, the other theater group that was in Whitfield High School. And so are we going to lose both at a time when, I work part-time in the film industry. I can see that we have talent coming to North Bay. We have programs at Canada College offering, young people the opportunity to have careers in those industries. And the children really love them. So why would we be losing
terrible
things?
Timing.
Yeah,
terrible timing.
when we need to strengthen them.
And I know Gateway Theatre is also looking for a home, and they, we got to find out why Whitfield can't be used, because that was an excellent venue.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to a different era of how things are done. And I think, unfortunately, when we have a communication strategy that seems to reveal that we have this top-down structure with very little consultation in the community, I was a little bit taken aback when I heard that we have the Elementary Teachers Federation and the Secondary School Teachers. Their representatives don't actually ever meet with Mr. Aspen, who is chair of our Near North District School Board, or our Director of Education. And again, I mentioned that idea of culture and climate. I think Mr. Aspen should be opening his doors in consultation with the union representatives for the people that actually work in the schools day to day. And that would lead to the Director of Education having a more formal relationship. But how do you create a strategic plan without discussing with the leadership that's elected to represent the people that work there, both the teachers and the sports staff? How do you come up with a strategic plan? So it doesn't speak of a culture of consultation. And this decision with the theater company also makes me think, how top down do we need to be? I think we live in an age where we need to work together. We need to collaborate, build partnerships. And that doesn't happen if you're behind closed doors. So I've also tried to get information from Near North District School Board, a principal, a superintendent, and was told there's a new communications protocol. So apparently they feel they can't talk to me. And I think, really? I want to run for school board trustee. I just want to, hear from different people in the system what their thoughts are about the challenges and the successes. They're not allowed to talk? There's some gag order? Why? Why is that necessary?
It's not necessary, and it's been a growing problem. More and more of the provincial top-down divisive sort of attitude towards keeping information away from people and not letting them have a say and not letting them talk about it is, I think, is a lot closer to what we'd call authoritarian, right?
Well, I don't think that's the way most organizations are finding success.
No,
I think we do in North Bay have a very specific, very present problem, both at City Council, they've been called out for this, and the Near North District School Board. It's highly unusual to have special advisors appointed by the ministry. So the ministry had to step in to the, district school board. And, that's why I want to commend them for creating this strategic plan, for trying a new approach to communication. But I think, where's the accountability? We haven't seen a change in the leadership at the school board level, but we had some very harsh criticism. And now we see a pattern of continuing to make decisions without consultation and not even meeting with key stakeholders in the community. So I think it's time for a change, and I think we need a different way of doing business, and we need to be able to take advantage of partnerships in the community who want to work with the school board and who want to work with families.
Definitely need some more balance on the at the school board level. I'm not going to hold my breath for change because I know how it's built, but kudos to you for your even thinking you have a chance to help that balance and to maybe chart a better way, because I know it can be better too.
Well, the only constant is change. There is no way that things are not going to change. There are so many forces, putting pressure on the system. And, another positive change that we see happening is a new generation of teachers. We just had a teacher be awarded that Prime Minister's Award for Excellence. And, I'm forgetting what her name was. But she was just in the newspaper. So we had a teacher.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Yeah, well, it was in Bay today.
This might be the 30 seconds I cut out.
Yeah. I have her name in my backpack. But, you can see that we have an excellent generation of new teachers, and they're being recognized. We have things like the first robotics, and I think this, school board has supported that group, and I think the trustees have voted to give them extra funding, and those are great investments, right? Mm-hmm. So things are changing. We see now English as a second language actually being offered in a class. So we have newcomers coming, we have new Ukrainian community. And so things are changing, and it's no doubt that the leadership will change. It's just, is it now? Is it today? Is it this month when we have an election? Or is it going to take us a little bit longer to catch up? And I really hope it doesn't, because we need that positive change.
Anything else that's on the top of your list as far as issues at the school board?
Well, to me, I'm surprised we haven't seen a response to the Right to Read report. There was an investigation on the Right to Read. This is something that, again, touches me very closely because my son has dyslexia, and we need to have supports for kids that struggle with literacy. So there was such an uproar over the lack of supports for literacy instruction that the Office of the Ombudsman stepped in to investigate the entire province. How was the Ministry of Education and all of the school boards supporting the Right to Read? And they found that there's really a lack of evidence-based instruction when it comes to literacy. So some kids aren't going to be helped if you just read more to them, or read them a bedtime story at home, or ask them to write more. Some kids actually need phonics. And we've kind of moved away from that, and we need to, put that back into place for some kids. In fact, the whole classroom benefits when we use phonics. But that report should be addressed, it should be responded to, and I think many school boards are trying to demonstrate how they're putting into place things that will encourage literacy strategies. And, even into high school, some kids need those supports. I know my son does. I shouldn't have to phone up and ask for them to give me a license to software so that my child can continue his journey to literacy. Right? That should be in place. But somehow at the end of grade 8, it's assumed, well, give them a laptop, they can use Siri, and that's not what the evidence tells us. Someone like my son can continue to improve his reading and writing, and he really has into grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, and beyond, but he needs supports. And of course, even in the younger grades, there's not enough supports. That's what the report demonstrated, and as a school board, they should be responding to that positively.
Well, when you fix that part about the right to read for those who need extra help, maybe figure out how they can, the right to write.
Yes,
and maybe
that's all part of it.
Maybe some comprehension skills, and move that right up through high school, because personally, as a journalist, and when I get feedback from people, sometimes, quite often, there's some very articulate people, much smarter than me, respond. But on average, a lot of times what I notice I'm not sure if it's just a commentary underneath stories in certain websites, but they don't seem to have comprehension skills, or they don't finish reading, or they don't put A, B, and C together to come up with D. They just skip right through it. So maybe that's a bigger social issue. Maybe that's just the emotional response stuff. But it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people who have high skills in writing, articulating their thoughts, and comprehending in-depth reports.
Well, media literacy is something that is close to my heart. I mentioned my father was a newspaper man, didn't like the term journalist. So I had the opportunity to live, because I married someone from Finland, and my kids went to school in Finland for a year, twice. They actually teach media literacy. And because they live next door to Russia, this is a really current and present issue for them. So every grade is taught, what are the stories we see online? And and sort of how to decode who wrote that, and is that really
good.
an argument that you believe in? How do you actually work that through? And so every single level of their education system until the end of high school has a media literacy component. And, these are things that all kids enjoy learning about. And I think it's a wonderful skill to add in the classroom. And I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't be teaching more media literacy.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's how I look at it as well. Why didn't he like the term journalist?
Well, I'm 58. My father was quite old even when he had me, so he's another generation. Yeah. He worked for the Toronto Star, and he lost his father at the age of 16. He didn't have the opportunity to go to university. His first job for the Toronto Star was parking lot attendant. So he wanted to work his way into the newsroom, and he got his first, job as crime reporter, and worked his way up. So he was quite surprised when he saw that you could have this journalism degree and come into the same kind of work he was doing.
Right.
And he didn't feel that the people that were coming with that degree had the same street skills, the same ability to find the story, and he didn't really see the value in that title.
Yeah. No, I can understand that totally, because I'm 57, and it was still a lot of the old school guys certainly didn't value the graduated and degreed people coming through that didn't exactly have what they had. I'm just a college grad, so I was closer enough to a grunt that it was accepted, right? But unfortunately, newspaper people are a dying breed, and as with the print products are slowly leaving. So, anyways, I think there's been lots to talk to you about in different areas. I've found you very interesting. I wish you luck in your campaign. Are you doing anything specific to try to help get your name out there?
Yeah, well, I'm attending all of the events. Now, there haven't been very many for school board candidates, but the Nipissing Students' Union is organizing one. And
when is that one?
I have to look on my calendar. I just got the email. It's coming up on, I think it's around the 18th.
Oh, okay.
But don't quote me on it. It'll be up on their website, though. Newsoo will have it.
I'll try to put the date underneath the description.
And the Labour Council, well, through the secondary school teachers, the OSSTF, they have something for their members at Lou Dogs on the 12th. Right, so I've been trying to do those things, and I've been trying to meet with as many people as I can. So I'd really like to meet with the executive director of Dreamcoat, and I'm just wondering, at the next school board meeting, there should be a petition with some signatures, and there should be a room full of people. If it's online, they should all be with their little cameras,
Yeah, let's make this transition, if that has to be a transition, smoother into a home.
Yeah, and I did that with when we arrived. The International Baccalaureate program was going to be shut down, and we had to do the same thing: demonstrate why is this program important to some students, and why it shouldn't be shut down when it's a success. It doesn't even actually withdraw funds so that other students can't do something. No, it brings more funds in because there's an extra
fee. I remember
fee.
that. Yeah. Another odd sort of decision that had to be backtracked.
Right. So, I think there's a legitimate concern here as to the transparency of decision-making, accountability of decision-making, and it's unfortunate we're seeing the same thing. I think everybody makes mistakes. There's a lot of successes that are happening. I don't want to just focus on mistakes. But when you see the same kind of mistake again and again and again, that's when, you've got to step in and say, hang on, put the brakes on this. There needs to be a different way of doing business.
So enough with the flagpole management. Seeing if people salute things and making them get all riled up, because it's going to bite you eventually. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Cool.
Yeah, great. Thank you for doing this.